Hi Steven, how are you?
Hello, I'm good. How are you? How are
I
you?
am good. I'm good. Thank you so much for doing this with me. And so today, I wanted to talk about this very tragic event that happened in Moscow, Idaho, and
Hmm.
I am. I was following this event. I think I don't know. I'm probably like a human. I'm curious what's
Hmm.
going on, and I was. I think the brutality of this and the young students. They were so beautiful and young, and they had their whole lives ahead of them. So I'm gonna just do like a little recap about
Yep.
this event. So around early 4 a.m. on November 13th, 2022, four University of Idaho students were fatally murdered in their residence in Moscow, Idaho. Um,
Mm.
and the students' names are Madison Mogen, she was only 21, Kaylee Goncalves, 21, Xana Kernodle, 20, Ethan Chapin, 20. Madison and Kylie knew each other since they were little kids, and they were like sisters. They grew up together, their family knew each other, and they did everything together. They were pretty much family.
Mm.
Xana was dating Ethan, so they were boyfriend and girlfriend. And in this house, Madison, Kylie, and Xana and two more other girls were renting this house, which was a 3-floor house, 6 bedrooms, I think. And Ethan came to visit Xana. He came over to visit. And basically, it's a very tragic event. I think it's senseless, like it doesn't make any sense. And
Mm.
I'm a mother and I have a daughter, and my daughter thinks that this world is like this beautiful place and she wants to be friends with everybody.
Yeah.
And um she is yeah, like she wants to be friends with everybody. She thinks people are nice. Um she thinks that whoever gives her candy or whoever talks to her, when I walk with her on the street, people wave at us. And this is this kind of like a dissonance between the world that we want to have for our children and for ourselves, and the world that we live in, where like these kids were like just going to university. This house that they lived in, it was a party house, but I think it's another reason to feel safer, because when I was living in the dorms, like some of the people that lived with us, they were like some of the people that lived in the dorms, they had their rooms were like a party room, and people went in and out, and it was fun.
Mm.
um and you feel safe because, and a lot of kids that would come over were not even from our school. Like kids would be different from different places, but it felt like you were in the company of people, you were safe. So yeah, so I was just saying, so basically, so I'm thinking that this is like a safe house, everybody knows each other. And these kids, they were stabbed, and they were
Yeah.
stabbed very brutally. Like, I don't think the police released, but basically, from my understanding, there were like multiple stab wounds, and they were with a military knife, and it was like blood everywhere. That's kind of like from like listening to podcasts, like that's what people kind of like saying. And that multiple, very vicious. And so from that, the podcast and the community, they started saying that the killer must be a serial killer or mass killer, and that this person has done it again. It's probably a savage
Mm.
person. He's probably a military or ex-military. This person probably likes hunting, uses knives, likes to kill animals. He's done it before. And that was what people thought, that kind of community, online community and articles, and even professional psychologists and professional criminologists were saying that. Professional FBI people were saying this is a savage person, most likely a male, from, they would say like from 25 to 40, I think they were, or 20. And this is what kind of people thought. Then a month passed. The police did not give many clues, much information to people, and they got a lot of criticism. The police got a lot of criticism because they said that it's been a month and no arrests, no leads, nothing. And then I saw all these professional people started saying that the case might be going cold. And then on December 30th, like I woke up early morning and they said the arrest has been made. Not much information, but it's a 28-year-old student, PhD student of criminology. This picture of a guy, I mean, to me, he looks evil, but I am prejudiced because now I know that he's a killer. But I am thinking, maybe if I saw him and somebody told me, oh, this is a genius who created a cure for cancer, and he's a PhD student from MIT and whatever, medicine student, I would be like, wow, what a smart looking guy. So I think he looks average guy. Okay, he's an average guy. And they arrested him, and it was a shock. They arrested him at his parents' house at 3 a.m. in the morning. SWAT team, FBI, helicopters. They did it quietly, and they would not release more information. They would not say why he was arrested, except that his DNA, I think, was linked to the murder. But they would say they would give to the public all the information in an affidavit. So that's later on when at his trial. But they did not give us again much information, but we knew that somehow his DNA was matched at the scene. Oh, and I forgot one thing. Before arrest, they released that they're looking for white Hyundai car.
Yep.
And I didn't think that was an important part of information because I'm thinking, okay, so they saw a car during the murder around the houses. I live in New York and there's cars at all hours of the night, 24/7. But this was a very important clue because when I listened to podcasts and I learned more about it and investigated, it was a rural area, and there are no cars there unless you live in that house. You don't go around that house. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, you don't go around that house or around that area unless you live in that house. There are no cars usually there. And it's not like somebody would just go drive by. It's not that kind of area. So if you see a car there at that time, that's very, very, that's a huge thing, which I understood then that it's, and this car belonged to this guy, Bryan. And, that's one thing. And then somehow they also collected garbage at his parents' house, and they linked his father's DNA to, they figure out that the DNA found in the garbage is 99.99% a fatherly figure of the persons whose DNA was found at the scene on the knife sheath. And then the way they tracked his father is through genealogy DNA, which I am a part of, like, 23andMe or Ancestry. So, because they didn't have anybody in the criminal database with that DNA. So they arrested this guy. So, and it's like a huge thing. And so my first question to you, and if I missed anything, you can definitely fill in. But my first question, do you think this guy is guilty? And we can go through affidavits, but what do you think?
Well, see, I think the evidence is definitely stacked against him here. I mean, the knife sheath. But one thing that I can't get out of my head, a man who's going for a PhD in criminology, all that, how could he leave such important evidence on the scene? He would know what they would be searching for. He would know that they would look at the knife sheath and they would analyze it. Why would he leave it there? That's my thought. Maybe he didn't care about getting caught. Maybe he didn't care about getting caught, but he is pleading not guilty. So you can't say that because, he's not admitting to anything. And his family are positive that he didn't do it.
His family. Yes,
Like,
regarding his family, he comes from a good family, and he has two of his sisters. I think a therapist or psychologist. His family says Bryan is amazing. Like, Bryan couldn't do it, and they stand by him. But I don't think they know all the evidence yet, because they did not present all the evidence, and that's going to come up. And that a lot of evidence was shown to us at affidavit, but there's going to be more at the trial, at the pre-trial hearing. I think it's going to be I believe in July or August, somewhere in the summer, 6 months from now. And that's when they're going to present all of the evidence. They haven't presented us with all of the evidence, but the police did such a great job. Like the police of Moscow, Idaho, they did an amazing job. And so I'm going to present you with evidence, all the evidence now. So you tell me if he's guilty. So DNA matches he did leave a knife sheath, and it matches his. Now they have more stuff, like they found at his apartment hair of a dog. There was a dog on the crime scene. I don't know if that's the same dog yet. We don't know. His phone, his car was seen at the time of the murder, right by the house. His phone pinged at the towers, a GPS at the house at the time of the murder, and it was turned off. That's what the police think. At the time of the murder, for 2 hours, it was turned off. So they think he turned it off, and then he turned it on. And also, he was there at the scene 12 times before the murder, at the early hours and late evenings. Again, this is not a place where you just drive through, like in New York City. You just, I've been driving by this park, or I've been driving you don't go there unless you live there. It's not. They don't see cars there. That's what my understanding there. Like, only you see cars, people that live there usually. So he was there. When he was throwing the garbage at his parents' house, he used gloves, and he took the garbage, and he also put it in a neighbor's garbage bin. So he didn't put it in his parents' garbage bin. And they also confiscated computer. I think there's going to be some evidence on his computer, but I think the evidence is very, very, very strong. I don't see any other, like, I wonder, like, if I was his parents, like, do you think they're delusional? Do you think they're going to eventually believe that? Or you think they will never admit it because they're his parents? Or do you think once they look at the evidence, they'll be like, oh shit, like, what do you
yeah. See, the thing is, right, first stage of grief is disbelief. And I mean, like, they're definitely in a phase of disbelief. I mean, think about it. If you get older and, your daughter commits, like, a crime or kills someone, as a mother,
God forbid.
like, you'd want to believe in them. And,
of course.
Family is very strong, and it definitely pushes people to do things, pushes them to believe things. And facing that kind of reality can be so hard, especially for someone that would be so close to their son. I've heard that, Bryan was really close to his father. I don't know what his relationship is like with his other family members, but I know that they were close. And so, like, it would make sense why they would be in such disbelief and even, try to stand up for him. But I think that after all the evidence is shown, they will definitely, I don't think they will have much to say apart from, like, I didn't see this coming, I couldn't believe it, all that. So we'll see anyway, but that's just my thoughts on this for now. I mean, there's so much evidence against him,
And I want to ask you, like, do you think they raised the monster? Do you think it's their fault? Like, do you think it's parents' fault?
No, first of all, like, they can seem like a great family, but we don't know what has happened in the past, right? We don't have, like, a complete insight on the family. They seem like a good family. And I've known people from good families that have done horrible things, but you don't really know what's going on behind closed doors. But if they were truly good to him, it does shock me that people do these things. But I think we're at this age where society and, like, you have all this social media. I think life can definitely steer you in the wrong path, even without, like, influence from your parents, because in the past, parents that were alcoholics made their children alcoholics and all that, and it was kind of that cycle. But I feel like now with like social media existing and all that, there's such a new path open to people to becoming like even worse. I mean, you see all these like dossers online and people finding private information and revealing it and people getting tracked down. Like you could go on social media right now and track someone and probably find their location very easily, you know? And
Right.
it allows for so much more messed up shit. And like you were saying there that he was in the area 12 other times and like it was probably very easy for him to get away with it because there's so many stalkers out there now because of social media. And I'd say it's probably not his family's fault that he was raised like this. I'd say like in childhood, he could have just been born differently. You know, people have mental disorders and, you know, those are created often, but some people are just born not right. And it's up to them whether they learn how to cope with it or not.
Right.
And
But I think my second question is like, how could they not see it? I mean, they raised this person, like, and
Yeah.
that's where I just want to say, I'm not blaming his parents. I'm just curious, you know what? Like, I'm curious. Like, let's say I give birth to somebody and I raise this person who is like a vicious murderer. And I'm like, what did I do? Like, I mean, part of me feels like there is responsibility on a parent to teach your kid what's right, what's wrong, how to handle difficult situations, right? There is definitely that. And also, I'll tell you this, like, I come from a family where, like, you know, my mother was in an abusive relationship. I lived, you know, in an abusive relationship for 10 years, you know, when I was a teenager. And I wanted to kill my mom's boyfriend. Like, I literally was like, I'm going to kill him. I thought about it. And I even thought, like, oh, if I kill him, I don't mind to go to jail. He was abusive. He would beat us, you know, always run with a knife after us. But there's something that, but yet I overcame that and I did not kill him and I didn't, I thought about it, but I didn't. And, you know, and now I'm raising my daughter and I'm not abusive to her. Like, I don't hit her. I don't, I'm trying to be the best mother that I can possibly be. And yet I come from this environment that was not the best. So I'm wonder like where's the connection? And like, I know people are very complex, but I think I'm trying to figure out, like, part of me wants to blame his parents, and I know that's wrong, but part of me is like, what, like, and how did you miss it? Like, how did you miss it? Like, he's not okay. Like, and his sisters are therapists. That's another thing. They study psychology. And again, I know I'm probably wrong, and I'm not trying to blame anybody. I'm just trying to dig in, like, these difficult things and how could we, yeah, go ahead.
I mean, like, what you're saying is right, because parents, they have a huge influence. But, like, as I was saying earlier, parents definitely have a much less influence now over their children than they used to have. And especially, like, Bryan, he was doing heroin and all that. And I mean, like, if his family was good, he probably never would have been stuck in that cycle for how many years, you know, but he was still able to get to that point. And, like, other people that interacted with him all said that he was a bit weird, you know, he was a bit of a loner, he was always trying to fit in.
Yeah, I disagree. You know, I'm going to interrupt you. I disagree with that, and I'll tell you why, because I was a loner. Like, I know so many people that were loners and weirdos, and, you know, when I was a teenager, I hated myself, and I was a loner, and I was alone, and like, when I was a little kid, I was bullied. Like, you could be a loner and you could be still a good kid. Like, you could be a weird kid and not fit in. I mean, look at Kurt Cobain. Like, he didn't fit in and he created this amazing music, Nirvana. He changed music forever. So what I'm trying to say that okay, you could be socially awkward. Nothing to do with being a killer. Nothing to do, you know? And also I want to, like, you know, this, like, also just like guys, you know, you could be maybe even creepy, or like some guys can be like even creepy. It doesn't make them killers. Like, they can maybe pursue girls, like, not a little bit in a creepy way. Like, so I just want to kind of say that even that does not make a person a killer, you know, and that's kind of scary, like, because you don't know what to look for, you know?
Yeah, of course. And like, I agree, but it definitely opens that opportunity way more because like mental health is everything, right? I've always vouched for this. Like, if your mental health is shit, you're going to be doomed to do shit things. And like, also his environment played a huge part in it. I've no doubt in my mind. And he was going for a PhD in criminology. Like, if there was anyone that should have known how to like commit a murder, it probably would have been him because he was said to be intelligent. He was a top student. And
Right.
yet he left all these clues, but I think that's a whole different like story. What I'm trying to say is his environment and, you know, clearly his health wasn't doing the best. And yet his family, like, they could have been good to him, but there was probably so many things that they didn't have influence over, or simply like maybe his sisters just didn't care enough. And I'm not trying to like, you know,
No, I know I'm talking shit too, because like that's why I'm like, and again, like, who am I to judge? You know, I'm nobody. But I think, no, that's a good point. I think it's just a conversation and we're trying to figure this out. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. And I think just all those, like, the environment, the upbringing, because my parents, right, were great. I have Polish parents, you know, it's a bit different than Ireland, but I think my parents were great, and, you know, I think I'm a good enough person, and I'm still young, but I'm doing pretty well. And I was a loner in school, right? And back in my early days, I was just playing video games, and I had like 0 friends, and yet I've grown up to be pretty all right. So, of course, like, it's not like if you're a loner, you will end up being weird or a murderer or anything.
Right.
But I definitely think it opens up that dark path where it's like, if you stay that loner and you keep going down that hole, like, you're going to eventually do something terrible, whether that's, like, you know, becoming a rapist. Some people do that. Like, a lot of those kind of people, it's very rare that there wasn't something bad going on. So it's not like people just become monsters out of nowhere, you know? There's always something.
I have a very good argument for you. So, you know Jordan Peterson. I know you love Jordan Peterson. But he has a very interesting thing. He says, you know, there's a Bible saying, like, the meek will inherit the earth.
Mm-hmm.
So, meek, he looked up, like, the word meek, and it doesn't mean humble. Like, it doesn't mean humble. It doesn't mean what do you call, scared, or like, how would you like? Can you tell me, like, like, how would you describe the word meek? Like, usually,
honestly, I would have said scared before. I mean, like,
you like the ones that, like, you know, kind of quiet and you know, just
timid.
So he looked that word up, and in the older days, I think it meant somebody who is capable of violence, but who decides to choose kindness. And who has that sword that they can take out at any time, and they can fight and they can win, but they decide to choose kindness and compassion instead. So it's a very strong person. And what Jordan Peterson said, that in order for you to become kind and strong, you have to have that violence in you. You have to be capable of violence, and you have to be able to hold it back, and give kindness instead. And that's what makes you strong. That's what makes a meek person, and that's what makes you a winner, sort of, you know. And so what I'm trying to say, that a kind person should be aware. They should be aware of the dark, violent side and choose kindness, because, you know, the world is dark, and, you know, and sometimes, you know, if you kind just to everybody, and if you don't choose, like, you're just kind, you know, and people walk all over you, and you're just like, okay, yeah, whatever, you could walk all over me. That doesn't make you a great person, you know? So it's almost like if somebody fights you and ready to murder you, like, you should be able to fight back. But choose kindness when you know that person is weaker than you, then you can choose kindness. And so what Jordan Peterson says, that darkness and that violence, it's in all of us. It's how are you aware of it, and how do you channel it? You know, you could channel it into murder and become this evil person, or you can become a good person and channel it in a different way. You know, and now I am not saying that this guy Bryan is. I think he's ill. Like, I think he's ill beyond. I think he's like a psycho. I think he's missing probably. You know, because they do study brains, and like a lot of killers have different brains. It's actually a different brain. Like they have missing parts, or like smaller parts, like the compassion parts. So I think he's definitely ill. But I think that realization that any single person of us is capable of violence, and it's being able to what do you call it, almost like tame your violence, tame your ego, and you know, become a kind person, you know. And I think that's kind of what Jordan Peterson says. So it's very interesting, where he says that we all are capable of darkness.
Yeah, and that's like completely true, right? Even like me, I've done karate for 11 years now, and you know, you learn a bit or two, and there's so many people that have come up to me and they're like, oh, would you be able to beat me up? Would you be able to do this? Would you be able? Yeah, I would, but so would you. Like, anyone can throw their fist at a face and deal damage. Anyone can pick up a knife and stab you and kill you. It's not like oh, you know, you're capable of this, you're capable of that. Anyone is. You just, like, the difference between me and you is I've spent 11 years perfecting it, but also being able to control it. Like, there's been so many times where people have tried to piss me off or try to make fun of me, and I could have easily, you know, dealt with it with violence, but I didn't, because it's not worth it. And some people don't have that kind of restraint, right? And that's also relating to mental health. If you can't deal with your emotions, you're not going to be able to stop yourself when you're angry. And it also makes you, you know, ask the question, like, everyone has that violence in them, but what makes you use it? Like, what forces murderers to commit murders? And some people, you know, they enjoy the thrill of murder, and some people do it out of rage and anger. Some people do it out of this and that. What do you think would Bryan, like, what would force him to kill?
I have no idea. I mean, I don't know. Okay, so one of the things, I think he's ill. Like, I can't, I don't know. For me, like, a person that does something like that is ill, like really messed up. Number two, who is he? Like, I don't even know. Is he a PhD student? Is he a loving son and a loving brother? A murderer, a mass murderer, potential serial killer, like, it's like cruel person, evil, the most evil person. Like I am struggling with putting all those pieces together, and that's my main struggle, because I'm like, how could a loving brother and a loving son and a student that people sort of liked, and, you know, I mean, it doesn't have to be favorite, right? But, you know, he was a good member of society, right? He's a good member of society. He went through high school, he went to college, like, people, you know, he had jobs. How's that possible? I don't know, you know, and I'm struggling with this a lot, because in my life, I'm like, when I look at people, like, how do I know who to trust? Like, this could be a kind person, like a nice person. This could, like, let's say I have a loving husband who's like a serial killer, like, and I don't even know. Like, I don't know. Like, it makes me afraid of the world, and it makes me feel like, who can I trust? Can I even trust my own judgment? Because I don't know. Yeah. See,
that's the interesting part, because you could be loved by someone and then that person is a murderer, but they won't murder you because they love you back. And it's very odd, you know? I mean, like, this is just reaching out, you know, whatever. Hitler, right? You know, he's terrible, but he was an animal rights activist. And some people are like, yeah,
what?
But he's an animal rights. Yeah,
are you serious?
He was an animal rights activist. That's like, and yeah, he committed mass genocide. So it's like, a person so capable of hatred can
Right.
be so capable of love and empathy. So it's not like that
It's
part is
confusing.
completely, it's like, it's very interesting anyway. And that,
It contradicts each other. I don't
yeah,
understand. Yeah.
yeah,
It's like two
exactly.
different things. Yeah.
Yeah, and
And
I'm like, there's so many cases like that, and it just shows that people like that are capable of empathy, but they just, it's almost like they're blinded, by hate or by anger, and it makes them unable to feel empathy. And I think that the key to mastering that violence inside of you is being able to feel empathy no matter what state you're in. And that's definitely how,
feeling
we can.
empathy. I see empathy. Yeah. Like empathy towards no matter what state, even if you're angry, to be able to, it's almost like to be able to put yourself a little bit outside of the moment and being able to observe the moment and control your rage and have sort of, it's like the prefrontal cortex is the one that is responsible for judging things and for kind of analyzing things, and that's like develops later in life. Like that's why, like when kids are little, like, and they want something, they just scream and throw a tantrum. They're not, even if it's like a candy, they're not able to be like, oh, it's just a candy, I can just wait for it, or like they're not able to judge it. But I wanted to say that when I was little in Ukraine, I was a kid, a Soviet Union, this was like a Soviet Union, there was this murderer, there was mass murders of kids going on in Ukraine, and the government in Soviet Union, it was then, and the government gave a curfew to people. They said everybody has to be home after 8 o'clock, I believe, 8 or 7, or I don't remember exactly, but everybody has to be home, and you have to pick up your kids from school, no matter what age, and you have to drop off your kids at school, and you have to be home at certain hour, because there was a serial killer and he basically killed kids. And I remember being like, I think I was like 8 or 7, or like, and I remember my grandma and my mom, they were so scared, and they were like, don't talk to anybody. If somebody offers you candy, don't, and we had to be home. And it was like very scary times because kids kept disappearing. And then they finally caught him, and his name is Chikatilo, and he was a school teacher, and he was a good member of society. He was married. He had a wife. He looked normal. Like, I mean, now I look at him pictures now, and I'm like, oh, he looks like a monster.
Yeah.
But he was a good member. He was part of like Communist Party. I don't know. It was like a Soviet Union. Like he was a part of like society. People liked him. A teacher. He killed like 56 kids. 56, and it was, they couldn't catch him for a long time because he was a good member of society, because he was a teacher, because he was a normal person, what everybody thought, and that's scary. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
and I
the
think
thing.
those are the scariest people, I think, because they blend in so well. They are functional, they blend in, and a teacher at school, like teaching kids, like, I'm like, how could we miss that? Like, how could we miss that?
And see, that's the thing. It's the same with this case, with Bryan. It's like, how could we miss it?
Yeah.
He was a student of criminology, and he did a crime. I wonder, where is this teacher?
Where's his teacher? Yeah, where's his teacher? Where's his parent? Yeah, like,
he was a teacher. He was surrounded by kids. He had so many opportunities.
Right.
Like, there's so many pedophiles that are teachers because they have access to kids. And then people are like, how could we have seen it?
How could not see it? Yeah. I think
so. Like, I think people are. I don't know if it's just like human nature, but I think people don't assume the obvious just because it's so obvious, and they don't like focus on it first. Like, I'm sure the teacher isn't the murderer because that would be too obvious. I'm sure the criminology PhD student isn't the murderer because it would be too obvious.
I see.
And like, he left the evidence at the crime scene. Why would a PhD student in criminology do that?
Exactly.
I don't know, but he still did.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Exactly.
I think it does definitely like relate to human, I wouldn't say negligence, but it's kind of like people they overlook the simple things, And that's why it's very important to look at the whole bigger picture and, do
All
all
right.
this stuff. But
So
what do you think about that?
yeah, I think I agree, but I wonder if I personally think, how would I, like how could someone get to know somebody? And I think that would be probably the number one. Like, how would somebody know somebody? Like, who could you trust? And what should be your criteria on deciding how to trust somebody?
See, that's the thing, because as we were talking about earlier, the person could be the best person ever to you, and they could, love you no matter what. But then to somebody else, you're a completely different person, and that's why, like, realistically, there's no possible way unless you go full detective mode.
Well, okay, but like, for example, you, right? Like, I feel like my personality is consistent through every role of my life. There is a continuity to my personality, like the way who I am as a mother, the way who I am as a friend, the way I at my job, the way I am in music when I create music, the way I'm as an artist, the way I am as a housemaker and cooker and whatever, like clean houses. There is a continuity. For example, I am kind, I am responsible, I am accountable, curious, somebody who, has problems as well, but somebody who's willing to say I'm sorry when I'm wrong, somebody who is willing to change her mind and analyze things. So there is a continuity, I think, in my personality. So I am not like two totally different people. Like, even in all the roles that I play in my life, I am still kind of the same. There's the same theme in my life. So it's not like, I don't have a hidden life, like if you open up my closet, you're not going to find like, you'll find like, maybe I'm insecure. I doubt myself a lot. I suffer from depression, but you're not going to find like, I'm envious a lot of times. Like, if people are more successful than me, I'm envious. That's also part of me. But you're not going to find like any other like weird surprises like that besides, you're not going to find like, weird stuff. Like, so there is a continuity, and I'm sure in your life there's also, so maybe, I don't know. So.
And that's the thing, because you know yourself best. But unless I spend my entire life with you, it's very hard for me to be able to determine that as well. Because you know who you are, what you stand up for, and I could completely analyze you, because I'm a really quiet person, right? I prefer to listen than to speak, and I prefer to like take in everything, gather my thoughts, analyze. But it's very, very hard to read a person, especially if they're, for example, like a workmate or a classmate. You only see them during that time, or maybe outside of work or, school if you hang out with them. But you don't know everything in the past, because you can't go into the past. You can only take the word from it and other people's words.
Right.
You don't know what's going to happen in the future. And anything could change over that course of action. Like, what if Bryan suddenly, turned into a complete shit person at some point, and his parents only saw him as the person that he was once before? That could be a whole different story,
Yeah, and I was struggling with this because my personality, like I'm just analyzing myself and my friends. Like, I have a best friend that I've known for I've known her for 35 years, like 35 years. And she's my best friend, and like, I trust her with my life. And I met her when I was young. She met me when I was, and my personality is, I have changed as a person, but there's still a common theme that is there. And it's like, it's good. It's not like, I think I'm a decent person. You know what I mean? Like, it's a decent person theme, like overall. And that's what I'm struggling with. But I think to answer your question, I think intuition, it's huge. And we talked about it, and intuition is not some kind of like woo-woo magical thing. We're talking about John Varnavecki. I forgot how to say his name, but when he said that, when he said that intuition is kind of something like that was developed by our instinct, our ancestors, it's this quick assessing of the environment and picking up on all these clues. And so when you're in an environment and you're feeling something is off, don't dismiss that. I'm not saying you should run away from the situation, but just pay attention to that. I think intuition is a huge thing. What else? Trust your intuition, analyze things, and look at the evidence. I would say, if somebody does something bad to you, like once, keep that in mind. Look at not at the wishful thinking, what you wish, but look at the facts and kind of see the pattern. Try to find out the pattern in the person. It's hard to do. I'm just saying, this is for me something and I think for how to read people. So definitely intuition is a huge one. I think if you feel something is off, something is off, and this exactly. This feeling. But I don't want to I'm not blaming the victims. They didn't even know him. They didn't even know him. They had no connection to him. And I just, it's very sad to me. And, so that's one thing. And so I think we've covered pretty much. So how do you know the person? I guess pay attention to the person, I think. Don't trust anybody unless they earn your trust. A person has to earn your trust, literally earn your trust through the years, through the situations. And life is scary. The world is a very scary place, and there are very, very, even from experience, Steven, there are bad people out there. I haven't crossed paths with a killer, but I have crossed with very, very bad people, and vengeful people. And I'm just saying that exists out there, and the world is not all pretty. And I think just paying attention, being aware of your surroundings. I'm not blaming the victims. I'm not saying they could have done anything. And sometimes it's just a bad luck, bad timing, bad place, and anything could happen, But as much as we can control the situation, I would say gut feeling, pay attention, be aware of your surroundings, analyze things, try to take the rose glasses off. I would say that kind of would be my best advice, I think.
Yeah. You said that you've came across a lot of bad people, but you've never came across a killer. How do you know that?
I don't know that.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know that. No, but I don't know that. But I think I came, people have done me I've had bad experiences. My best friend turned on me when I was little. I was I was in the school and I was in this music school and I did really bad on the tests, and my best friend, the girl that kind of always encouraged me in music, I was 10 years old. She basically, when I failed the exam, she went to all the kids, collected the signatures, and she said she's gonna kill me if I come back. And I was and they drew a knife and a hawk, and I know, but that was. And she said, if you tell anybody, we'll kill you too. If you tell, and I didn't tell anybody, and I was afraid of that girl for 20 years, and then eventually I was oh my God, I'm old lady now, and I'm still afraid of something that happened when I was 10. And I was embarrassed, but that incident influenced me for 20 years of my life. I know it's very embarrassing. And I didn't even tell my parents. I didn't tell my mom. I told my mom 20 years later, and my mom said, you should have told me, because I could have complained to school. That girl would have been I was afraid. I thought she's going to kill me, and I was afraid to fight it. She was my best friend. And so, no, I could never predicted that. And, it's funny because later on in life, she found me on Facebook. This is a few years ago, and she tried to add me on Facebook, And I said, like, obviously I didn't, but I wonder if she remembers that or no, but like,
Yeah.
it's weird to me. Like, I know she was only 10 years old and I was only 10 years old, but that shit like messed me up so bad, like so bad.
Well, yeah, it was a death threat. Like she
Yeah.
said she was going to kill you. I mean, fair enough. It's not embarrassing at all. If someone threatens you, you have a right to be scared, and you have a
Yeah.
right to have trauma from that. Because as a 10-year-old, you don't know much, right? And when you're told you're gonna fucking die if you come back here, you're gonna be scared. You're gonna be traumatized, of course. So it's not.
So I'll tell
it's
you,
not like anything
I
else.
was afraid of her. I was afraid of school. I stopped talking to all the kids from that school. And I told my mom I'm never going back there. And my mom did not know why. And I said, I'm not going back. Like, I would, like, whatever. And I didn't tell anybody. I was really afraid. But looking back, like, I wish I fought back. I feel like, and also that incident, like, really influenced me because when I went to a new school, I was like hiding. I would sit in the back. I would be afraid to trust people. I didn't have, like, I was afraid to make friendships. I was very, very afraid. Anyway, I'm not saying I did the right thing, but I'm just saying, like, that people are different. Like, you really don't know. But yeah, what would be your advice? Like, to how would you trust a person? Like, what would a person need to do to earn your trust and, like, to become your friend, somebody that you could trust? And
I was actually going to ask you that as well, but yeah, I'll answer that first. I mean, the way a person earns my trust is just like if they do good things without a reason, not only to me, right? Because like I remember this one time. This is how I just like I pick up on the small things, right? I remember having a friend. His name was Sean. Great guy. I had a lot of old friends, and they all like I left that friend group because they're terrible. But there was this one guy, Sean, in that friend group, and he was like really nice. He does like have a few, issues, as everyone has with their mental health and all. But he was really nice to me, and I only have positive memories with him. And I remember waiting for my dad to pick me up after school one day, and he was waiting with me. And there was this guy, the way sometimes birds just like sit on the road,
yeah,
and like a guy stopped in his car to beep his horn for the birds to fly away. And not many people would do that. They would just keep driving, And my friend sat there, observed it, and he was like, that was so nice of that man. Like, I really respect him for that. And those kind of thoughts that, like, if someone sees that and they think, that man didn't have to do that, that was so nice of him, like, you can tell he's a really kind man. If they have that kind of thought, in my mind, I'm like, this person, like, I can trust them. Because if they have that kind of mindset, then
right.
they're going to think that way about other people. And that's why I value positivity so much. And that's why I value that kind of like, it's almost like, gratitude thinking. Like, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so grateful for this. Like, if I meet someone and I go for a walk with them and they're like, you know what? The birds are so beautiful today. Like, they could obviously just be saying that for the sake of it. But if someone's default thoughts are that, that's great because
that is amazing. Actually, that's a very good observation. I never thought about that. Yeah, I think gratitude is important. Like humility, gratitude, like for even like when a person is drinking coffee, like or appreciation of what we have. I think that's important. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And even the guy that stopped in his car, like there was no one with him in that car. He wasn't like. I doubt he came home and was like, I stopped for a bit of birds, on my way back home to his entire family. He just did it out of kindness. And some people just do stuff like that. And when they don't expect anything back, they just do it out of, their heart. That's what makes me gain respect for someone, not some, like fabricated in school, someone is shit talking you and then another person tells you about it just to start drama. Because like, it would be different, there's been so many times, how it is in school. Someone's like talking shit about you and someone's like, oh, did you hear they were talking shit about you? And you can ask them, okay, but did you stand up for me? And then they're like, well, like, and if you're truly my friend, why didn't you stand up?
That takes a lot of guts to stand up, especially in high school. Like, I mean, that takes a lot of guts to stand up for your friend. I mean, I don't know, like that, that doesn't even happen in the grown up world. Like Steven, like I see people, even if they on your side, they wouldn't speak up in public. that's yeah. I always try to speak up. I always say like, hey, if I but that takes courage. That takes courage. A lot of courage.
For sure.
And that takes practice, and also like as if when you're gonna go like and get older, like your good habits, it takes practice, like my like even fighting or being assertive, like because my natural state, I freeze. Like if I feel somebody's attacking me, or if I feel like somebody is like would say something bad to me, I wouldn't say anything. And that's how I used to be my whole life, because my natural response, I just freeze in shock, and I'm like this, and that's it. Like, so for me to become more assertive, that takes practice. Like as a person, like I started like to respond fast, like, or even like, if somebody's mean to my daughter, I can like protect her. Like, it takes practice for me to that skill did not come naturally to me.
And of course,
yeah.
And if someone is really trying to improve it, like, someone could not have that kind of courage, and that doesn't make them a bad person. But if I can see that someone's actively trying to improve themselves and trying to get that courage, that's going to earn respect. Like, I'm going to respect them,
Yeah.
So, to answer your question.
That's amazing, like, that you value those qualities, like, that's really amazing,
Thank you. Yeah. What about you?
Yeah, I think for me, like I told you, somebody has to earn my trust. I have to see them through multiple situations. I trust my gut feeling. I learned that my gut feeling is very, very accurate a lot of times. Again, I don't want to be like sounding like, oh, I feel something is wrong, but this person like didn't do anything wrong to me. But I do feel the energy. Like when the person walks in the room, I feel this energy. I pick up on it. It's like I said, it's probably came from ancestors, just picking up on the clues. But that feeling has been very, very accurate for me. I used to not listen to it, and now I'm more like, okay, I feel it and I trust it. So I'm trying to become more proactive now. So like if I feel something is off, I'm trying to do something about it, like instead of just not doing anything. And just in general, but to be honest with you, there are situations in life where you have no control of the situation, and that's very, very sad. Like, and to me, that's the scariest part, like having no control of the situation. I remember my mom was dying from cancer, and like this feeling of when the doctor told her like you're gonna die, like they just. And I kept like grabbing to control. Like I kept trying. I was like, no, mom, the doctors may be wrong. Maybe there's a miracle. I kept trying to. I sent my mom like I bought her like these herbs online. That supposedly, I saw a documentary that these are miraculous herbs. It's probably a bunch of bullshit. Like it's miraculous herbs cure cancer. I bought her these herbs. I sent it to her. Like I was trying to. Pray. I was trying to, I don't know, like I was trying to do all this stuff, and I was like, oh, maybe the doctors are wrong. But like this loss of control, like really bothers me and scares me. And I don't know, those situations are really scary for me when you have no control, Yeah,
for sure. And then the only thing that you're left to control is how you respond to it. And that can be like very difficult,
I don't know. I never want to be in that situation. That's scary to me. Like, I don't know. Like, it's scary to me. Like, I'm like, what if this is it? Like, this is it. This is life. This is the situation. This is how you're gonna die. This is it. Like, that's scary to me. That's scary to me. Very, very scary. Very scary. And my mom was a warrior. I mean, she's an amazing woman. Like, she's stronger than I am in many, many ways. But I don't know, those situations, like those are nightmare situations for me, like when you have no control at all. And what I'm trying to say is that there are situations in life when people have no control, and it doesn't matter how much you know or how much experience you it's just like the wrong place, the wrong time. Nobody knows why. And random, like this random thing. Like that scares me a lot. No.
Yeah, for sure. And like even Brian's parents, like I'm sure they feel the exact same. This lack of control, like my son is accused of this, what can I do? Apart from get the best lawyer out there, like, and that's why I don't want to blame them or anything, because like all they can do is either sit in disbelief and be like, no, 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 he's innocent, or just accept like the son that I raised and put, blood and tears into him, like he turned out to be a killer. And I can't
Not only
imagine.
that, like it should turn out to be like this evil, like he's. I mean, this is yeah. Well,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah. Well, it's nice talking to you. I know we covered so much, but thank you so much.
Thank you. I'm grateful for this opportunity.
Really, I'm grateful too. I'm gonna turn off. I'm gonna stop the recording. But thank you.
Thank you.